Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, they sure love the governor. Also, the V team takes a look at the latest polls, Moore versus Jones. And Mike Hubbard is still at large.
It's been almost a year since you escaped.
But I haven't escaped. They're still after me. They'll always be after me.
You got that right, Buster. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V team. Welcome all.
Good morning.
Hi, guys.
Wretched time change, Jack. I hate it.
I don't like CST, I like CDT.
There you go. Yeah. Something that a research project, just a normal looking at things. Michael Sparks, who is the director of forensic science, just washed my mouth out, can't do a thing with it. He's retiring. So Steve Marshall, the Attorney General, or whoever the Attorney General is at the time, gets to appoint the new forensic science guy. And it's, Susan, basically, it's a lifetime appointment.
It's like being appointed lifetime judge. It cannot be fired by the governor or anybody else. Basically, the only way to get this person out of office is to indict them like you would a DA. And it has to go through a formal process. So you got the forensics director's got a free card there.
Yeah, I mean, Jack, Michael Sparks, good guy from all we know, making 150 plus a year. He's retiring. He's going to run for Gerald Dial's Senate seat.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, Gerald's been there a long time. He's running for ag. I don't know this Sparks guy. I find it odd, and there's nothing illegal because it's in the law.
Right.
But I find it odd that the legislature would anoint the Attorney General with the job of picking the forensics director, especially this current Attorney General, who was not elected by the people, is getting to make a lifetime appointment, which probably a pretty political job, I would think.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
Beth, the thing that really, I think, disturbed most of us is if you look back just in Montgomery County, as recent as a year or so ago, they had almost 2,000 drug-related cases that people were languishing in jail because they couldn't get a forensic tox screen on them. Yet, when Spencer Collier, the chief of police of Selma, former Aaliyah chief, had an accident, they got his tox screen back in less than a month.
Right. It was
days.
three weeks and 1 day.
1 day.
And his tox screen came back clean. Wasn't anything there. But, this is, we were talking about this earlier in an unrelated thing, but about just the issues in our criminal justice system. And when you look at the fact that you've got 1,600 cases backlogged, that's 1,600 victims, 1,600 families that have a loved one in jail that are waiting on justice. I mean, this is an important position. And then also, in all I learned in evidence class, if you have a forensic science department that's not following chain of custody and really doing their due diligence with this, it can do a lot to let bad guys back out on the street or put good guys in jail where they don't belong.
Well,
yeah, you could ask the Montgomery County District Attorney Darrell Bailey, and he'll tell you they're waiting on a lot of stuff from forensics. And it's not forensics. I mean, they're backed up, but they don't have enough manpower.
Yeah, I think the big question in my mind, though, is how is it, and I talked to Michael Sparks, how is it that Spencer Collier's tox screen came back in 3 weeks and a day, and here's the kicker. John Nyman, who was Governor Bentley's taxpayer-paid lawyer, stopped negotiation on Spencer Collier's lawsuit against Bentley once Spencer had that wreck. And to me, it smells that they were waiting, Susan, for that talk screen to come back. They broke off all court demanded negotiations with Collier, and they thought they had something in this talk screen.
They really did. And for them, to have it expedited, that just to see if they've got something that they could go against Spencer Collier yet again is, as Claire would say, egregious.
Jack, you buying that this was just some
No,
accident?
they sped it up for political reasons. We all know that. They wanted to discredit Spencer so that he wouldn't have good standing in the case against Bentley, that the lawsuit that he filed for wrongful termination or whatever.
And Bentley smeared him throughout the whole state, called him a criminal.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine.
And called him a drug addict.
Yeah.
And they were friends at one time.
Yeah.
It's all because a
very
woman
close.
got involved. That's what that was all about.
Pesky women.
Evil woman.
Pesky
Not,
women.
Mud cricket, witch woman. I want to move on to another subject. We got about 2 minutes. And I know, Beth, you probably don't want to hear this, and all our Democratic friends don't want to hear this. A new poll came out, a very reputable group, shows that Doug Jones is trailing Roy Moore by 17%. I find that a little hard to believe, 17%. But this poll is showing that it's not even close right now. But what do you think?
Well, I mean, the one poll that matters is the one on Election Day.
That's true.
And
That's
I don't know how many polls said that our president would never see the inside of the Oval Office. So, I just hope Democrats do their due diligence and they go out to vote on December 12th. And, we'll have it out the good old-fashioned way on Election Day.
What do you think about, is Mayor Wolfen or Mayor-elect Wolfen, is he getting out his people? Do you hear anything on that?
I think Mayor Woodfin is concerned with the transition. He's really got his eyes on Birmingham and making sure that Birmingham is going to peacefully transition between Mayor Bell and his administration, but people are excited all over the state. I live in Birmingham. I drive around and I see Doug Jones signs in every corner of the city. So I don't know that it's Mayor Woodfin's people, but I think it's that, the mayor's campaign is working closely with Doug, and we'll see how it turns out.
Jack, we hear that they're hoping that some Republicans will switch over and vote for Jones. I don't see that
Some
happening.
of the more liberal Republicans, the money crowd, few of them will defect and go to Doug Jones. And Doug is a good guy, and he's very well spoken.
Yeah.
He's smart, but they're kind of like anybody but more, some of the Luther folks and some of the moderates in the party. But I see in the very end that Doug Jones does not prevail and that Moore will win, in my opinion, 7-8 points. I don't think it's 17, but I also don't believe Fox poll that it's 42-42.
No, I don't either. But we got less than 30 seconds. If Jones even comes in the race and has a pretty good showing, even 44%, that's a big win.
Bill, I think this is a big win for the Democrats. If he gets anywhere in range, I think, as Beth and I were talking about, we're looking at maybe another transition in 2018 to give at least a stronger Democratic Party here, because they've gotten so weak over the last few years that if you compare that sort of close race with what Woodfin did in Birmingham,
I
they've got
might
a shot
differ with
rebuilding.
you a little bit on that because this is kind of a unique race. Roy Moore is a very polarizing figure.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with a Democrat who wants to be your governor.
I'm John Merrill. As your Secretary of State, I want to encourage each and every eligible U.S. citizen that's a resident of Alabama to be registered to vote and to obtain a government-issued ID. It's important for your information to be updated as well. Please contact your local board of registrars or download the mobile app at Vote for Alabama so you'll be prepared to vote on December the 12th. We'll see you at the poll.
Lawson's Aesthetics and Med Spa is a one-of-a-kind medical spa offering a portfolio of rejuvenation services and advanced technologies to enable you to feel younger and look fabulous without the need for invasive surgery. Owned and operated by licensed physician Dr. Heather Lawson, the Lawson's Aesthetics and Med Spa offers advanced therapies for women and men to revitalize body and mind. Discover what you and Lawson's Aesthetics and Med Spa can accomplish together. It's your life. Live well, live strong, and live beautiful.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest today is Walt Maddox, mayor of Tuscaloosa, and you're running for governor.
That's right, Bill.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you. You're the mayor of Tuscaloosa. You've been there for quite some time. You were there on April 27th when the tornadoes just ravaged your city, and you were even featured nationally as a mayor who rebuilt a town basically from the ground up. You've had a lot of experience. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, born and raised in Tuscaloosa. I'm married, have 2 children, and one of the reasons why I'm running for governor is because of our experiences in Tuscaloosa, because whether you're a Republican or Democrat, what we've been able to do is achieve results, and that's something we haven't been doing in the state level. And certainly I would say that every core function of our state is in crisis. We need to rebuild Alabama like we've rebuilt Tuscaloosa.
Well, and I agree with you. I mean, if you look back, the same problems we had in 1987 are still the same problems we have today. We have problems with our people are undereducated, they're underemployed, they're unhealthy, we can't pay our bills and all that. Do you have any ideas? Tell us how you've done it in Tuscaloosa and how you might transfer that to statewide.
Well, the first thing we've done in Tuscaloosa is lead from the mayor's office in terms, first and most important, expectations. We expect it to be a great city, and every day we work towards that. We need to change expectations in Alabama. That's going to be the first responsibility as governor. I mean, like you said, we've been 46th, 47th, 48th, and everything that matters my entire life. And over the last 7 years, where the other party has had a supermajority in the legislature, had the governor's mansion, and had the courts, nothing has changed in our state except that we've seen 4 of our leaders, the governor, House Speaker, Chief Justice, and House Majority Leader, leave under a cloud of shame. That's not Alabama. That's not the people that I work for every day. So we need to change leadership, and we do that with a chief executive officer like myself who has shown that government can actually work. It's not about big government or less government. It's about effective government. And right now, if you're in rural Alabama, there's a good chance your health care is in jeopardy. Anywhere you go in Alabama, our bridges and roads are not in the shape they need to be to go out and recruit the next wave of technology into Alabama. And whatever the core function of the state that we have, it is struggling and it's in crisis. There's no doubt that the last 7 years we've taken a step backwards. We can't do that going forward. And it's time with new leadership to believe again in the Democratic Party and believe in leadership that can transform Alabama.
You know, and you bring up a good point here. The Democratic Party at one point defined the South, that it was primarily Democratic. Alabama has never had what we traditionally know in the South as a new South governor. And that was a progressive, conservative, progressive governor who was young enough, who had bright ideas, and who had the energy and the time and the forethought to put them together. I mean, we think of Asa Hutchinson, I think, over in Arkansas, and Terry Sanford in North Carolina. And I think I've got that right. Terry Sanford, I know I've got right. But these guys, of course, it's been almost 40, 50 years since they were around. But you look at how North Carolina and Georgia has prospered under what we call New South leadership, primarily Democrats. We've never had that in Alabama. I mean, if our governors didn't get impeached or convicted, they left under a cloud of darkness. And now, how do you address that? I mean, what do you say? You're young, you've got energy, you've proven yourself. Can you make a difference?
Oh, yeah, we can absolutely make a difference. And that's where we've got to start a new narrative in this state. For years, the other party has played with the politics of fear. All they want to do is blame someone else, whether it's a group of people, whether it's government, or whatever it may be. It's always someone else to blame for Alabama's problems. Yet in the last 7 years, we've seen corruption as rampant as any time I can ever remember. Every core function of our state is in crisis. So yes, I absolutely believe we can make a difference like we've done in Tuscaloosa. We can make a difference by passing a lottery and making college affordable again and by extending the pre-K to every child that's at risk in Alabama. We can make a difference by day one expanding Medicaid that will provide 331,000 Alabamians, most of them working, the opportunity at quality health care, and by the way, keep our rural hospitals open and create a $1.8 billion economic impact in Alabama. We can make a difference by passing the Alabama Infrastructure Alliance Plan for roads and bridges across Alabama. Right now in our state, 20% of our bridges are functionally obsolete. 1 in 5 Alabamians every day drive over these bridges. Our state government is in crisis. Now, what the other side's going to do is they're going to tell you that everything's going to be okay, just like the last 7 years where we've seen our leaders go to jail and the state's quality of life continue to decline. But I don't think you can mask it anymore. Our children deserve great schools that can prepare them for a 21st century technology-driven economy. Families deserve the opportunity to remove themselves out of crime, poverty, and blight. And we all deserve a healthcare system that we can access, that we have an opportunity to enjoy a quality of life, whether you're in rural Alabama or urban Alabama. I think now time has never been better to elect a Democrat that wants to talk about the real issues facing real Alabamians every day. I'm not going to lead by dividing people. I'm going to lead like we've done in Tuscaloosa, by bringing people together to address problems. In my last election in March, and Tuscaloosa is probably evenly divided among Republicans and Democrats, we received 89% of the vote. We did as well in Republican boxes as we did Democrats. The reason why? It was about results and not rhetoric.
And that's one of the things we've seen, and we have less than a minute left in this segment, but one of the things we've seen is over the last 7 years, our leadership has overpromised and underdelivered. And you're saying that your record in Tuscaloosa shows that you deliver.
It's about people and not politics. That philosophy is going to carry with us to Montgomery, and I think it could use it.
Well, we do too. I mean, I won't say anything bad about our current governor, but she is going to have to run for a full term. You're going to have to convince the voters they should hire you, but you're also going to have to convince them they should fire her. Won't be an easy job, but you sound like you're ready to take on the challenge.
This is not about a person, this is about record. And if you look at the record over the last 7 years, or the 16 years that the governor's been here in Montgomery in a constitutional office, Alabama's not better for it. I'm ready to have that debate, whether it's about values or record. As a Democrat, I'm ready to have that debate and go to the people of Alabama and say, we can be better, that we can believe in a brighter future.
You could run as a Republican. They'd take you in a minute. They don't have any rising stars.
Well, you know what? I've had over the course of my career, I could have changed parties for the sake of political convenience, but that would be dishonest with myself and dishonest with the people of Alabama. And I think Alabama's had enough of dishonesty.
Yeah, well, there are a few rising stars, but not many. Anyway, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Hope you'll come back often.
I sure will. Thank you.
Thank you. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our guest today has been Tuscaloosa Mayor Walt Maddox. He wants your vote for governor. We'll be right back.
I'm State Senator Tom Watley, and I'm proud of the work we've accomplished this past year in Montgomery, bringing quality jobs to places right here in Alabama. We've recruited businesses and jobs to Lee, Russell, and Tallapoosa counties, expanded and hired locally. But there's more work to be done right here at home. That's why I'm running for re-election to the Alabama State Senate. I look forward to working with our communities to create more jobs, train our local workforce, raise wages, and increase the overall quality of life right here in the heart of Dixie. It has been an honor to work for you. Now I'm looking forward to tackling our next set of challenges together.
The Energy Institute of Alabama promotes reliable, affordable, and clean energy to help grow our economy, create high-paying jobs, and build public support for Alabama's energy industry. Access to clean, affordable energy continues to be an issue of vital importance in the halls of government and around the kitchen tables across our nation. The Energy Institute of Alabama is the best source of energy industry information and how it affects households across the state, from convenient energy production to alternative fuels to solar power and beyond.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Beth, I think we may have just seen the future of the Democratic Party here in Alabama.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's got a bright future ahead, and I think Kim and Sue Bell are going to have it out in the primary, but primaries are good for a healthy party, so I think this will be good for us.
Well, that party's on life support. So.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure this little light of mine is going to help.
Anyway, he's a great guy. I wish him all the best.
Yeah, he's very impressive.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, and if Doug Jones can get a good standing, it's going to help him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to help him win, but I think it's going to help him to get some good numbers.
You know, listen, I'm for divided government in the sense that we've got some kind of equilibrium. This one-sided deal gave us Hubbard, by the way.
And Riley.
Where's he these days? What's
Right.
Hubbard up
Well,
to?
you know, October 21st passed without fanfare. That was the 3rd anniversary, Beth, of Mike Hubbard's indictment. Something they said would never happen.
Can't believe it's been 3 years.
It's been 3 years.
It's been all that time, and he's still walking around. He's convicted. He's been sentenced, but he's hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, that again, problems with our justice system. The fact that we've got a convicted felon on, 11, 12 counts?
12.
That's wandering the streets right now. I mean, nonviolent felon, whatever, but still wandering the streets. And we're waiting on an appeal, and it's ridiculous that it takes this long to get justice.
You know, and while he is a nonviolent offender, you know, what he did to the state and what he did to degrade the office that he had, Jack, I sometimes think is worse than stealing somebody's car.
Well, you know, Mike's problem is, and it'll get you in politics, is that you're vindictive.
Yep.
You know, when you win office, you're supposed to be bigger and act, you know, but he always had a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And that bigger ego with the chip filled the entire 5th floor and bled over into other floors in the State House. It was ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I remember a lawmaker I was talking with him, and this was 2011, I think, and he said, you know what the problem is with Alabama government? And he pointed to the speaker's chair, and he said, that guy, he thinks he's the governor, the Speaker of the House, the President Pro Tem, and the head potentate.
Well, he acted. They let him act as that.
Yeah.
Well, it's a terrible legacy. One of the things that has been a part of the legacy, though, Jack, is that, and I don't want to beat up on Steve Marshall too much. I mean, I think he's inept and unqualified for the position. But he retracted that whole ethics reform package when he came in office. And we've seen no movement on it since. And that was something that needed to be strengthened and clarified, and nothing's happened because of Marshall.
Yeah, he's not exactly what you would call a promoter of change, kind of a status quo guy, it seems thus far. And improving ethics and clarifying the law that was passed in December of 2010, I think it's in need of review.
Well, everybody is clamoring for it, lobbyists and legislators alike. I mean, because they are kind of floating out there not knowing if they're actually violating that law, so they don't know how to act appropriately, and nobody really wants to break the law.
And then the other legacy we still have, Beth, as you well know, the Ethics Commission, they've got the ethics of a Bangkok brothel owner. I mean, they just it's cronyism and politics and nothing about letter of the law. I mean, how do we?
Right, well, and I think the biggest problem is that we've got this ethics commission that is not tied to the Attorney General's office. So the ethics commission can come to you and give something its blessing and say, yes, this is okay. And then the Attorney General can still turn around and indict you on the same offense. And there's no way to make sure that these two groups are on the same page. And it's confusing to lawmakers, it's confusing to lobbyists, and it's a waste of money that the Ethics Commission is doing separate investigations from what's already going on. We just need to do away with it.
I agree with Beth, don't you, Susan?
I
mean,
do.
it's
I
like they've had all this time to prove one thing: they're ineffective, and they also they just will bend the rules to fit their friends.
I mean, when they're voting on an admitted conflicts of interest before they vote, say, I've got a conflict of interest here, but I'm going to vote for it anyway.
And it's kind of a sad day when Dr. Tankersley left.
Yeah.
Oh, that
He
was
was at least
terrible.
the voice of reason in
He
a
was.
What a
sea
great-
of corruptness.
What a great guy.
I want to see Dick Brubaker
great
on there
guy.
eventually. If they're going to keep
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
Dick Brubaker
Yeah.
needs to be there.
Well, some good news for Governor
VT
Kay
line.
Ivey. She is one of 5 governors whose poll numbers have increased over the last 6 months. She's polling at about 62%, Jack. That's pretty golden
Yeah,
right now.
she's well, Kay hadn't rocked the boat. You know, she talked about a steady hand at the ship. Well, she steadied the ship. She hasn't rocked it, and right now she's not really done anything wrong. And to Kay's credit, in some of she's been very decisive in some of the things that she's done.
And in that poll also, I think her disapproval rating went down from 13 to 12, which is also a good indicator.
Well, you know, in Alabama, if you're not corrupt, you know, as governor, you're probably going to poll in the mid-60s right now.
Right. Well, and that's the one thing about Governor Ivey. You know, I've got strong feelings. I was a PAC student, and she was over that program when it
Yep.
had trouble. But, you know, I think that she's not in this for personal gain. She's not corrupt. I don't know that you can say that about everybody in her office, but I think that she's at least doing it for the right reasons, and I think that should count for something.
You know, and I don't know. When I was talking to Mayor Maddox, I said, look, not only do you have to give people a reason to vote for you, and Jack, you know this, you've got to give them a reason to fire Kay
Right.
Ivey, and that's going to be tough.
That's how to beat an incumbent. You have to give the voters a compelling reason to turn that person out of office. And it's not there right now. A lot can happen, but right now it's
Yeah,
not there.
November's a long way
Oh,
away.
yeah, it's a lifetime in politics. Sadly, over the last few weeks, we've lost a few important politicos in the state of Alabama. First was Tea Party activist Danny Joyner, and most recently, U.S. Congressman Jim Martin, a wonderful guy from Gadsden.
Great guy. I knew Jim a long time. He was the oldest living member of Congress, or having served. He was 99. There's another guy behind him who's 98 from New Jersey.
He was a great guy, and he will be missed. We want to thank you for watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them. Welcome back to The V, a special session with Mayor Walt Maddox from Tuscaloosa, and he wants your vote for governor of Alabama. Welcome back.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
All right. We're doing a special segment. This is always a little bit more laid back than our normal segment, but I do want to get to a couple of things.
Okay.
You know, right now, under the Republican leadership nationally, health care that people depend on, even though it wasn't expanded in Alabama, people depend on what's happening with the ACA, or otherwise known as Obamacare, and the CHIPS program that helps our children, that takes care of our children's health. That has been cut off. I mean, it's not there. We're facing a time when thousands and thousands of children and poor and elderly are going to be without health care protection.
In 7 Alabama counties since 2010, when the Affordable Care Act was implemented, and when Alabama decided not to expand Medicaid, we've had 7 rural hospitals that are either closed or announced that they're going to be closing. We've had several other counties who have had to raise taxes to keep their local hospitals open. So this has meant 331,000 Alabamians who could have qualified under Medicaid expansion. By the way, most of them working are either veterans.
Right.
They would have had the opportunity for expanded health care, which would have been a $1.8 billion economic impact, kept those hospitals open, and in many counties kept taxes down because you didn't have to raise it at the local level. It is probably the worst policy decision since segregation in our state. The economic impact is certainly one aspect that's been poor on our part, but the moral impact of not expanding Medicaid to working Alabamians just because it was passed by a Democratic president, that's unconscionable. And that's why I'm looking forward to this race as governor, because for too long, Democrats, we've been scared to get on the moral question or get on the values question. I'm ready to fight on that question, because I will tell you, my faith tells me that when you have an opportunity to responsibly put more than 200,000 working Alabamians or give them the opportunity to health care, we should do that. That is a no-brainer. And that's why you've seen so many Republican governors fight so hard to make sure it's not taken out of the Affordable Care Act in the debate going on in Congress.
Right. You know, and you bring up an interesting point, you know, for, I guess, since the Reagan era when the religious right, the evangelicals joined together with the Republican Party, even though they had an evangelical president in Jimmy Carter, they turned on Carter and went to Reagan. And one of the things we've seen, and here too, we have a lot of Christians that vote Republican, but yet it seems like our party leaders, and I'm not talking about all of them, but a number of our state party leaders, they have forgotten the social gospel. It doesn't seem to even exist.
Well, I'm an imperfect person, but I'm a Christian. I've tried to live by my faith every single day of my life. And what I see down here in Montgomery is hypocrisy. We talk about making decisions of faith, but the same people that say that are very comfortable with 331,000 Alabamians not getting health care because it was passed by a Democratic president. That's unconscionable to me. How does a person of faith agree with that? As a person of faith, how do we allow our infrastructure to continue to melt down, knowing that our bridges and roads are unsafe, and that Alabamians' health and safety is put at risk every single day because we're not willing to make the tough decisions? And how, as people of faith, can we feel comfortable seeing so many of our children being left behind in this 21st century technology-driven economy? At some point, our faith has to reconcile our policies, and it's not happening in Montgomery. And I'm a Democrat who believes that it's not about big government or less government, it's about effective government. And when we have effective government, the very values that I believe in as a Christian, that I've seen my Lord and Savior talk about, I believe effective government can help make that a reality when it comes to education, when it comes to business development, when it comes to improving our roads and bridges, that the very things that we believe in, we should try to execute every day in a responsible fashion. And I think as Democrats, we've allowed Republicans to take the high ground, and we should be willing to say we're the party that fights to make sure every child has an opportunity to quality of education. We're the party that fights to make sure that your health care is accessible where you live, whether in rural Alabama or in urban Alabama. And we've got to have a candidate that has been successful in doing those things and willing to draw those distinctions in a race. If we come across, as Democrats, if we nominate another Montgomery elite, we will stand no chance next November. But if we're willing to nominate somebody that's outside of the Montgomery bubble, who's executed every single day as a mayor and made Tuscaloosa better, I think we've got an opportunity and we have a narrative that can be successful come November of 2018.
And we're going to wrap it up pretty quick here, but I want to address one more issue, and that is we've seen the corruption. We've seen the various things that happen, but we've also seen the Republican part, not the Republican, but the Democratic Party just completely pull back and almost fade away in our state. I mean, you know, we saw it in Birmingham and Jefferson County where a grassroots organization lifted a mayor who was running against a Democrat, lift him over the top and win. How do we get a Democratic Party back that's viable and can lift a candidate up?
Well, I'm a new Democrat, and we plan on creating a new covenant for the state of Alabama. That new covenant is embedded in achieving results and not rhetoric. That's what we did in Tuscaloosa. That's why we got 89% of the vote. is because people saw results and not rhetoric. So a new Democrat who creates a new covenant with the voters, with the expectations that Montgomery should be working for you and not against you every day, that's where it starts. And that's why I think this election, November 2018, is a turning point for our state. The people are tired of the excuses coming out of Montgomery. They're tired of the politics of fear. They want to see their lives improved, and they want to see it done with ethical leadership that every day is focused on people and not politics. That's where that new covenant begins.
Well, I wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you, Bill. I
and
appreciate that.
You come back anytime you want. We'd love to have you.
Hey, I can't wait. Thank you very much.
You've been watching a special session of The V. Our guest today has been Tuscaloosa Mayor Walt Maddox. He's coming for your vote.